All right, well, hello guys. Let me start my video here. Hi. I just want to start off by saying I apologize if things are a little crazy over here in Miss Melanie's house because my air conditioner decided to break during quarantine, so that's been fun. So you might hear some people come in and out, and that's what's going on. And that's why I've got a ponytail, rocking the ponytail this morning. I'm just gonna let a few more people in here and then we're gonna get started. And this should be a pretty quick Zoom lesson today on this Monday morning after Easter. And I know everyone's kind of tired from the long weekend. Well, it's so nice to see that you guys decided to show up for me today. Thank you, I appreciate it. Make sure that you encourage your friends that didn't show up to the live lesson that they have to go back and watch the Zoom lesson from YouTube. Because they're going to get information here that they wouldn't get if they just looked at my Edsby post. So thank you so much for showing up. It means a lot to me. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. For class, you will want to have this available, and hopefully everyone can see my PowerPoint here, but you're going to want this sheet available, and it has hi Kate, hi Victoria, thanks for shouting out to me, hi Maddox. This vocab sheet is what we're going to be filling in at some point after we're done going over some new vocabulary terms. We are introducing a whole new unit of statistics. So you're going to want to write down these blanks to make sure that you have the definitions for statistics. So this is on Edsby. You could also just jot them down on a piece of scratch paper. I understand some people might not have printers and things like that. There's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blanks. So you can jot down the words and then go back and fill them in, or, do what you can to copy the definitions down. But this is for you. You guys are going to want this. And that's so that when we go to have activities that you're going to turn in and things like that, you will not get all of these different measures mixed up, because there's a bunch of different measures that we're going to learn about. And we've kind of a little bit touched on them throughout the year. I've mentioned them that they're coming at some point, and some of this will be a little bit of a review. If Miss Allison taught you, she might not have gotten to it, but if she did start teaching about mean, median, mode, and range, that's what we're going to kind of be working on this week. Okay. And I know if you went to the STEM skating field trip, we talked about measures of center, like mean, median, mode, and range. And we kind of did some math there on that field trip about this. And that's why I throw that in there, just so that this will be like not brand new to you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let in a few others. Thank you for remembering to put your first and last name on your Zoom profile. There's a person waiting in the waiting room that just says like their name of their device, and they're not going to be able to be let in, unfortunately, because I don't know who they are. So make sure you rename yourself correctly, and you remind your friends to do that, because I know you guys are always on communicating in other ways like text and things like that. So just make sure you remind your peers of all the things that they need to do. Sometimes we need to remind each other a little bit, especially during this crazy time. All right, so hopefully you've got everything you need today. Our agenda today is I'm going to introduce you to statistics in general. Then we're going to talk about measures of center and what they are, and some vocabulary that goes along with those. And then we're going to talk about how to calculate mean, which is an average. Hopefully you have some background on how to do that from one of your science classes or things like that. And then we are going to do a computer activity, which I thought would be a little bit more fun than just random old math problems. So we're going to do a little gizmo computer activity, and I'm going to model how to do it. And then on your own time, you're going to do a couple things for me. Now, I want to preface this by saying that you have nothing to turn in today. Okay, and nothing to turn in revolving this lesson, so that's good. So the pressure's off a little bit, but you do have some things that I would like you to do in order to make up for learning this skill, so that I know you know what's going on. And that is, one, to watch a video, and I provided the link here, and the link is also on Edsby, obviously. You watch that video. It's a crash course, actually. So if you've ever seen the science crash course that they have on that YouTube channel on YouTube, sometimes I think Mr. Matthews might show it, I'm not sure, but crash course on statistics. And that's going to be introducing us to what we're learning. And then also the Gizmo activity, I made a little tiny URL, which is tinyurl.com/mathgizmo. And that will take you right to the activity that I'm going to be showing you and modeling to you in class. So I'm going to have a little assignment for you to do. It's just really 3 problems for you to do on your own after I show you how to use the Gizmo. This would be something that you would do on your own. And welcome to the people that just joined. So we're going over the agenda. This would be something you would do on your own. Basically, you're going to do exactly what we did inside class when I modeled it to you. You're just going to do it on your own. And you really don't need to show me proof of doing it. I'm going to trust that you're doing it. If you care to know the skill of finding the average, finding the mean, then you'll do it, okay? And if you don't get to it today, you'll do it tomorrow so that you know how to do it for your IXL skill, because today's IXL skill is on inequalities, which is what we did last week, because I don't want to give you something that I've not taught you how to do. But tomorrow's IXL skill is going to be on what you're learning today in this class. So it's important to listen and to do the activities that I'm giving you to do, even though they're not submitted, just so that you know what you're doing on tomorrow's IXL skill and on future assessments. All right, so we got a couple little stragglers coming in, and we're going to move on. So I'm going to introduce you to statistics. So statistics, this is a definition, and I put a couple of little images there to get your mind flowing on what statistics are. But statistics are a branch of math, just like geometry or algebra. It's a branch of mathematics dealing with the collection, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of sets of numerical data. Okay, so you are given data sets. Now, sometimes in math class, you're given data sets. That means that they'll give you a big old long list of numbers to crunch, okay? But then in real life, a lot of times you're finding data, like as a scientist, okay? So it might be that you're a marine biologist and you're studying the size of sea turtles, and maybe you want to see the size of the baby sea turtles before everyone went into quarantine versus after everyone went into quarantine and everyone's locked up and stuff. Maybe the size increases, maybe they don't, maybe it stays the same. So in order to do that, you would measure the sizes of the baby sea turtles. You would have, you know, a big long set, because you don't want to just measure 2 or 3. You learn in science, you need a bunch of trials so that you can kind of average that out. Well, you develop a list of numbers that way. You've got all the different lengths of sea turtles. Maybe it's in centimeters. And that becomes your list. That becomes your data set. Okay, so data set sounds really scary. Statistics sounds really scary. Guys, it's just information. Okay, and it's just numerical information. So this could be your stats in baseball. This could be how many jump shots you make in a basketball game. This could be your wins and losses in sports. This could be your math quiz grades. Okay, and I have data every day at the bottom of my EDSB page. It averages together what everyone's score is on that quiz. So like the inequalities quiz that we took last week, for example, it'll show everybody's scores. So I have a big long list for everyone in that period, but then at the end of it, it will average them all together. Okay, so all of these things are statistics. So statistics is pretty cool. It's not just, it's very much real world math. Okay, sometimes we'll just be given a random list and it won't seem that that we won't connect to it too much. It won't seem that real, but just remember, these are probably, these are sets of information from science, from the real world, from sports. Statistics are used in so many things, okay? And business, you know, obviously uses statistics. So no matter what kind of career you're going into, you're probably gonna run into statistics at some point. Statistics. Okay. I can't say that too fast or I'm gonna mess it up. So let's go to our first definition, which is on your vocab sheet. So you might catch the information as you go, but we'll go ahead and go over the answers in a little bit. But data set. So a data set is just what I just told you. It's a collection of numbers that or values that relate to a particular subject, whether it's basketball scores or jump shots, you know, data. If I start talking sports and math, things go south because I only know softball. So just bear with me when I start bringing up other sports. But a data set would look like this. Notice that there's 3 threes here, okay? If a number comes up more than one time, you still record it in that data set because that's important. That means it's a very common answer. It's a very common number. For instance, if many people got 85 on a quiz, that's not, I'm going to list, you know, the 7 people that got 85. I'm not going to just write 85 once because you want to factor that into your measures of center, okay? So a data set is just really important vocab term for statistics. Now we're gonna focus in on our vocab terms, and those are called, we're gonna learn about measures of center, okay? These are your 3 M's, your mean, your median, and your mode. Today, we're going to focus on how to calculate mean, but these are, I just want to give you the definition, the overview of all the measures of center, because as a learner, oh, I got some people still in the waiting room. Let me let them in. As a learner, all right, and welcome if you're just joining us. You want to go back and review things that I've said if you're just joining us because you did miss the beginning. So make sure next time you're on time, and if you're not on time, make sure you go back and watch what you missed. Okay, so measures of center, you're gonna need to know what a measure of center is. It's a mean, it's median, it's mode. They're also sometimes called measures of central tendency. It just depends on who you're talking to, what part of the country you're talking to, what math curriculum you're talking about, what mathematician you're talking to. So measures of center, this is a simplified version of it. Measures of central tendency is another way of talking about it. You'll want to know that range is not a measure of center, okay? Measures of center means that it's going to tell us about the center of the data set, the average, okay? That center point, that point where we can take all the data from large to small and kind of average it into what the center of the data set is. That's a measure of center, so that's a great way of remembering it. All right, so our first measure of center is mean. Mean is mean, okay? Mean is the one that takes a lot of calculations. So you might think, oh, that's the mean one, okay? That's averaging. You should have done averaging at some point in your life, whether it be in a 5th grade science class, a 4th grade science class, a 6th grade science class. You should have been averaging at some point. And that just means you've added up a series of numbers and then you've divided by the number of numbers, okay? So the definition of mean or average is the sum of the numbers divided by the amount of numbers. Again, if there are 3 threes, you're gonna count those 3 submissions, okay? You're not just gonna count the 3 once. You're gonna count all of them. So for instance, on this screen, there are 7 numbers. So we add them all up, we get 42, and then we divide by 7 since there were 7 entries into our data set, and we get an average of 6. So if you look at this data set, it ranges from 3 to 13, and 6 is the average. That seems reasonable, okay? 6 is, we put them all in a pot together, we average them out, we get 6. That's a reasonable measure of center. It's the center of the data set is about 6, okay? It doesn't represent all those 3s we got though. So sometimes mean isn't the best measure of center that you can choose when you're looking for a measure of center, okay? But mean is certainly very important. So we're gonna focus more on how to calculate that in a minute. Median. Median is, okay, median can sometimes be really easy if you have an odd number of numbers in your data set, or it can be kind of more difficult if you have an even number of numbers in your data set. So in this little poster here, they pretty much chose an odd number so that it would be a little easier. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. And oh, obviously it's the same data set. And the middle number is your median. So there's an important point that they didn't mention on this poster. You've got to have your numbers in least to greatest order. Otherwise, if you just have them in random order, it doesn't matter what the middle is. The middle could be any number if you have them in random order. So you have to put them in least to greatest order first, L to the G. and then you find that middle number, okay? Notice that they kind of crossed them off as they went. That's a great strategy. So they found, okay, there's 3 to the left, there's 3 to the right, and then I met at the middle. That middle number is 6. Also notice that the median of this data set is the same thing as the mean of the data set. Sometimes that happens. It happens a lot. Now, if you do have 2 numbers in the middle, that means you have like a set of 10 numbers, set of 8 numbers, and there is no true middle that you found because there's an even number of numbers. It's symmetrical. You get to that middle and you're like, there is no middle. What you're going to do is you're going to take the 2 middle numbers and you're going to average those. You're going to find the mean of the 2 middle numbers. So if, for instance, the 2 middle numbers are like 5 and 6, you'd add them up together, divide by 2, and you get 5.5 or 5.5. Which you probably could have guessed that 5.5 would be the middle of 5 and 6, right? So you're finding the true middle, whether you have to average them out or whether you just see it staring at you in the face, which is when you look out. Okay, that's median. Think of medium, like the medium sizes, okay? Medium, middle, okay? So that's using that Greek and Latin root med, that's middle, okay? So middle number. Now, mode. Mode is the number that happens the most. So think mode, most, okay? It's the number that pops up the most in a data set. Now, notice obviously this data set has 3 3s. So the mode is going to be 3, okay? Sometimes data sets will not have a mode, and that's okay. So sometimes all of the numbers will just appear once, and then you would just say no mode. Okay, there's also another way of listing that, but we'll learn that when we go into more detail about mode. There's also a problem if maybe we have 2 numbers. Maybe we had 3 3s, but we also had 3 7s or something like that. Then you would have 2 modes. You'd have 3 and you'd have 7. You don't average them out. You just list 2 modes. So it's okay to have more than one mode. It's the numbers that occur the most often. Maybe it's like a poll. Okay, if you're polling something, you know, the mode are the numbers that come up the most often. So maybe those are going to be, you know, the numbers that are important to you. So it just depends on what you're trying to find with these measures of center. Then you have something called a measure of variation or a measure of spread. Okay, and that shows how spread out the data is. Measures of spread want to see how far apart these numbers are. How many numbers are we talking? Are we really close together on the number line? Like all the numbers are between 3.0 and 6.0? Or are we really far apart and the numbers are like thousands of numbers apart, you know? So that's what a measure of spread is, how spread out the data is. And the one that we're going to be talking about right off the bat this week or next week, depending upon how we get to it, probably this week, range. Range is the difference between the greatest number in the set and the least number in the set. I do want to say one quick thing about range. Let me let a couple more kiddos in here. On range, in science, we kind of say like the range of the size of sea turtles, and it might, I'm literally totally guessing on this, but like, let's say it's like, I don't know, 30 centimeters to 50 centimeters or something, and we call that a range. That's a scientific range. Well, range in math is the difference between those 2 numbers. So you have to subtract them. Okay, so it'd be the largest minus the smallest equals the range. So in this case, our range is 13 minus 3, which is 10. Okay. All right. So that being said, let's move on and let's focus on mean, because we will get into more detail about median. We'll get into more detail. Median will be on Wednesday. Mode and range will be together on Friday because those are the like easier ones. Okay, but today we're going to talk about calculating mean. Tip to remember, this is something, you know, I always have Miss Melanie isms. Okay, this is a Miss Melanie ism that you'll want to remember. Mean means average. Mean means average. Okay, so it's just another way of referring to average. It's common that some people in the science world might say average instead of mean. They mean mean. Okay, so how to calculate mean. The mean is computed by adding all the numbers in the data set together and dividing by the number of elements or number of numbers contained in the data set. So here we have a data set in example 1, and I'm going to grab my pen and hopefully it's going to work today. So in this data set, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. I see that they're not in order from least to greatest, but with mean, that doesn't matter. You don't need them in order from least to greatest. I mean, yeah, if it's killing you that they're not in order from least to greatest, then you can totally put that in order, but you do not need to, because all you're going to do is you're going to put these into a calculator. Guys, I said the magic word. You're going to use a calculator. Okay, so you are allowed to use a calculator. You can use the app on your computer. Remember, it has a calculator app, or the app on your phone, or just a good old-fashioned calculator. Or if you want to, because you just miss so badly doing that, you can just use good old-fashioned paper and pencil, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is add up all of these numbers, and that's what we have right here. They're all added up together. You add those up, you get 35. And then they put a slash. Remember, that slash is like the fraction bar, and that's a division sign. So we're going to divide the number 35 by the number of numbers. So they counted that there's 7 numbers in the data set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we're going to divide by 7, and we get 5. That means that the mean is 5. So the mean of the data set, the average of this data set is 5. And if we go back and look at these numbers, your brain can almost understand that and see that. Okay, the data set ranges from 2 to 7, 2 to 9. And so 5 seems like a reasonable middle. It is, because it's mathematically correct, okay? 5 is the mean, the average number, okay? Now, sometimes the mean could be a number that's not even in the data set. Okay, 5 happened to be in this data set, but it doesn't have to be in the data set to be the mean. And a lot of times when you're dealing with mean, you're going to end up with decimal answers. Because remember, anytime we divide, we have a high chance of getting a decimal or partial number, okay? So decimals or fractions could definitely be your answer, and that would be fine. You're not gonna round them or anything like that unless they're crazy long, okay? If they're more than like 2 digits deep to the hundredths place, you'll probably want to round them, but it's fine to leave it. You'll want to leave it as like 5.5, like I said earlier. You're not going to want to round that, okay? All right, so let's go to another example. I think we have a question. The last bullet point on the page is least to greatest. Let's see here. I don't understand that question. Let's see. I've got a couple people that have a question, so I'm going to go ahead and call on them. So, Juliana, get ready. I'm going to go ahead and call on you. I see your hand up, and you also asked. Juliana, do you have a question?
Well, yeah. So I typed in the wrong code, so I got here a little bit later. I just missed the first one. Wait, it says that for me to start my video.
Yeah, I gave you permission if you'd like to.
Okay.
You don't have to, though.
Hi,
Juliana.
Hi. Well,
wait, that's not everybody, guys. That's just the person I called on. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone else needs to turn their video off. I just gave her a message that said start your video. Okay, Juliana, what's your question?
So I came here a little bit later because I typed in the wrong code. So I didn't get the part where it says mean or average, where it says like the blank of the numbers blank by the amount of numbers in the data set.
Oh, you mean on your vocab sheet? Sorry, actually, Juliana, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to kind of go over the answers to that. But mean or average, the blank of the numbers, the average of the numbers, excuse me, the sum of the numbers divided by the amount of the numbers in the data set. So I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Wait, so the average of the numbers. Okay, wait. So
the sum of the numbers divided, and you could just use a division symbol, divided by the numbers, divided by the amount of numbers in the data set. So did everyone see that? Thank you, Juliana.
Okay, I read it wrong.
Okay. And then the median would be the number in the what? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Here, I'm going to call on someone that might know that one.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you think you know what the median is. The number in the, Brayden, I'm going to call on you. I think I called on you. Maybe I accidentally, actually I called on Trey.
Brayden. I'm not Brayden.
Hi, Trey.
Hello.
You're not Brayden. I see that you're not Brayden. But I'll call them both Braden and Trey, and together they could probably do this.
Okay.
So Braden
Okay,
and
Braden,
Trey.
let's do this.
Okay, we're gonna say in 3, 2, 1. Middle.
Middle.
Oh, very good. And let me just, I'm gonna, you don't have to start your video. I'm just giving you permission if you want to say hi. Thank you for that answer. Hi. Okay, so the number in the middle is median. And then for mode, why don't you guys say mode too, since there's 2 of you? I'll give you 2 questions. The number that blank the blank.
The number that appears the
most.
There we go. You guys are a team, man. Okay, the number that appears the most. Mode most. Okay, thank you. It was nice seeing your faces, guys. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call on one more person for the final answer. And again, thank you so much to Juliana for reminding me to go over the answers. All right, I think I got that done. If I didn't turn off your video, turn off your video. Okay, range. Who knows the answer to range? I think I will call on Jordan. Okay, so, hey, Jordan, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, well, I bet you could do this, Jordan.
Okay.
Let's try. Range,
okay.
the blank between the greatest and the least numbers. Remember what I told you had to do with the greatest and least numbers?
You have to subtract the greatest or the least from the greatest.
Yeah. So what is the word for an answer to subtraction problem?
I
know it's been a while.
Yeah. The difference.
There you go. It's been a long time since we've had lots of mathematical discussions. Yes, the difference. And excuse my my handwriting here, guys. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and go to the bottom here. Always order the values from least to greatest. And remember, I kind of mentioned you really don't have to do that except for when it is the median, but it is kind of a good practice to get into. That way you don't forget to do it on the median. So that's always good. Okay, let me make sure I've got everyone all set here. I think I do. All right, if I didn't turn your video off, make sure your video is off now. All right, so now let's go back to where we were. Hopefully everyone got the answers there. And we're going to move on back to where we were. We were right here. Okay, so example 2, we have a new data set. Okay, our numbers are 1, 4, 4, 4, 2, 9, 4. Now, I'm going to call on someone and I want to see if you can give me a context for what these numbers mean. So this is where you're going to use your imagination. Come up with some random, appropriate, but random and silly and crazy and cool and creative way of saying, I don't know, what are these numbers mean? Where did we get these numbers from? It could be centimeters, it could be numbers of animals, it could be whatever you want it to be. What do you think we did to get these numbers, all of these numbers that are ranging from 1 to 9? So it's got to be an answer that would be around 1 to 9, but it can be silly, kind of like Mad Libs. So raise your hand and lower your hand if you don't want me to call on you. But raise your hand if you want to come up with where we got these numbers from. I am going to call on, Maddox. Maddox, I have a feeling that you can give me a really creative answer. So,
all right.
What do you want these numbers to be?
All right, these numbers are going to be how many times the crowd laughed when the Golden Girls made a joke, right?
I like
because
that.
that's the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now.
I love Golden Girls. Oh, awesome. Okay, so how many times the crowd laughed when the Golden Girls told a joke? And this might be like one episode, then another episode, then another episode, then another. Some episodes were obviously better than others because that one episode that has 9 laughs in it was really good. But then like the episode that only got 1 laugh, not so good. All right, awesome. And I have a feeling there'd be a lot more numbers on the Golden Girls laughs because they're really funny. But thank you so much, Maddox. That was a great one. All right, so let's go ahead and calculate this. So the steps are to add all the numbers together. So we have them added together here. We get 28. And then you divide the answer by how many numbers are in the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 numbers again. Divide by 7, you end up with the answer is 4. So that means therefore your mean or average of that data set is 4. Okay, that's all there is to it. And this is going to pop up a lot. I remember learning it when I did my science fair project in 3rd grade, and we had to do like 5 trials, and then you had to average together the data you got in the trials so that it was a valid science experiment. So this pops up a lot in science, but it happens in all sorts of things. All right, so now that we've kind of gone over this, it's not really that complicated of a subject, calculating mean, and it should be somewhat of a review for you. We're going to go to an actual activity. So I'm going to, yeah, I did, Brayden. I had to do that in 3rd grade. It was hard in 3rd, but then we did it in 4th, and then we did it in 5th, and so then I got the hang of it. But basically, you're just adding the numbers together and dividing by the number of numbers, okay? Once you get it, it's kind of easier. Okay, so we're gonna do an activity. I'm gonna model it to you, and then you are going to do it on your own. Now, one little thing that came up with this, when I went to click on this to show it to, like to have it ready to go for this lesson, it said, you've practiced for 5 minutes, and that's your limit. And I was like, really? And so I made an account because it was free for teachers now with all the things that are going on. I did this really quickly right before class. I made an account, made periods because I had to do it in that way, and then came up with class code. So there's not just one class code, there's a class code for depending upon what math period you're in. I'm going to post that sheet on how to make, like how to get on there and log in. I think you do need to make a username and password, unfortunately. I hate to do that to you again, but I recommend just using the same username and password, like using your student number, using your same password so you don't keep forgetting all the different usernames and passwords. But it's safe. It's a learning website. You go on there and you can make an account. Remember, this is not submitted. You might even get through with this in 5 minutes. So you might not need to create an account, but we might use it in the future if it becomes a really cool tool to use, because it's so much more fun to like do an activity online than it is to sit there and crunch a bunch of numbers. So I like using it for you guys. All right, so I'm gonna go to this website right here, and notice on here it says click control click to follow the link. Of course, that doesn't work because math. Oh, there we go. All right. So can I have a thumbs up if you see the website now, or if you're still seeing? I want to make sure you see the website, not the PowerPoint still. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I see a couple thumbs up. I see a couple thumbs down. So averaging those together is not a good answer. I'm going to make sure about that by resharing this. So I'm going to share computer sound as well. Okay, now you should all see it. Oh, we got one person joining in. All right, so here we go. You've got this website. It's called Gizmos. It's a little tool. What's going to happen is there's a log, okay? Leave the balance point at 5.5 because that's just showing that that's the middle of this, and that doesn't really matter when we're going to calculate mean. We could use this tool for mean, median, and mode as well. So but right now we're just dealing with mean. So what you're gonna do is make your own data set. And so I'm gonna make my own by dragging these little points over here over to one of these numbers. So I'm making a number from 1 through 10. And every time I do that, a little froggy shows up over here. So I've got 1 at number 1. 1 hops, and when he hops on the log, he lands at number 4. And then maybe I want 2 at number 4. So 2 frogs, when they hop on the log, they land at number 4. 1 hops and lands on number 1. And you're gonna keep doing this. Oh, I got one person that must have came out. Okay, You're going to keep doing this, and and you guys are not doing this right now. You're not on Gizmos. You're not on this website. I'm doing this, and you're watching me do it. So I have people sending in questions, what's the class code? You don't need it yet. I told you after the Zoom, I'll post it onto Edsby. But right now you're just watching me so that you can learn how to do it, okay? Or this is like guided practice, if you will. And then independent practice will be when you do it yourself. So I want you to go ahead and drag, all of these would be 10 frogs. You can make a data set of anywhere between 8 and 10, and it tells you right here how many numbers you have. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do all 10, and I'm gonna try to make sure, like I would definitely stack up some of them so that they're all, it's not just like, oh, I have the digits 1 through 10. Don't make it that easy. Now, as we added frogs here, you ended up with the data set right here. Okay, so you should see, I'm gonna see if my pen works on this. Nope, it decided not to work on that. Okay, so hopefully you see my mouse, but the data set is right here that it made. This is the visual representation of it with the frogs, and then this is like a little frequency table over here to the left. Now, do not click calculate mean until you want to check your work. So what I want you to do is I want you to find the mean on your own. Let me see what this tool says. It might have no, it doesn't have a calculator. So on your own, you're going to pull up a calculator app. I'm going to do it on my phone. You could use your phone, you can use paper and pencil and not use a calculator, or you can use something, you know, on the computer like online calculator or Google. Okay, so we have the numbers 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 equals 50. Now, I want to say something about this. When you're adding a bunch of numbers like that together and there's some repeats, you might want to do it twice because sometimes we have some human error that goes into it. And so that's just something I recommend. I notice a lot of people kind of had trouble using calculators, and sometimes you guys got things wrong when you're using a calculator and it didn't end up helping you, it made it worse. So if you're not familiar with it, if you don't feel comfortable, do it twice, okay? So I got 50. And then I'm going to divide by the number of numbers, which is 10. So 50 divided by 10 is what? 5. So I'm thinking that the mean is 5. So now I'm going to click calculate mean, and boom, I got it. I got it right. So this is going to show exactly what we did. We added all the numbers together. We divided by 10. That's why it's over 10. And then that equals 50 divided by 10 equals 5. So we're checking our work by clicking calculate mean. Okay, so we're going to do another one. So I'm going to clear. And I'm going to go ahead and do another. Maybe I'll do 8 this time so we're not dividing by 10 all the time. So you can make a data set anywhere between 8 and 10 numbers. That's what the directions of the activity are. And remember, this is not something that's turned in. So this is on your own at some point so that you learn how to find mean. This is just instead of a worksheet. So I'm not going to know that you did this or not, but it's something that I recommend you do. Okay. So I ended up with 9. I'm going to do 9 data pieces of data, okay? So I've got 9 numbers here. Remember, they're listed right over here. Uh-oh, it says calculate the answer. I pretend like you saw nothing there, okay? So obviously we just learned something. You got to uncheck the calculate mean button when you clear it and go to the next question. Okay, so now I'm going to add them all up. So that's, oh, here's my calculator, by the way. Okay, so it's 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 7 plus 9 equals 37. Can you see that? Okay. And then I'm going to divide it by the number of numbers, which is 9, and I get this long string of repeating ones after my 4. So I would round that to like 4.1 or 4.11. So if we go to calculate our mean to check it, there it is, 4.11. Now notice that they put the approximation symbol, the little wiggly little equal sign. That's because we rounded it, okay? So it's not exactly 4.11, it's really 4.1 repeating, but you can go ahead and round it to the nearest 100 like that, or the nearest 10, as long as you've got it pretty close to that. Okay, so that's our average, that's our mean. Now you're gonna go ahead and do this 3 times, and then I feel like you're pretty well set on mean. Okay, remember that is going to be an optional well, not optional, but I shouldn't have said that word on live camera here. Not optional, but it's going to be not necessarily turned in or anything like that. I'm not going to look to see who did it. Okay, so this is the calculating mean gizmo tool activity. Here are the directions. You make 3 data sets, drag and drop all the points, blah, blah, blah. Use a scratch paper or calculator and repeat with 3 data sets. It's not submitted as a grade, but here's the kicker. If you want to be possibly given an Instagram shout out, send me a picture of you using the tool. And I will, you'll be in the running to be on Instagram as long as I don't get 60 of you. So if I get more than a lot, then I will choose. But you have a great chance of being on Instagram, being Insta famous for the day on my stories if you go ahead and send me a picture of you using the tool. And that's it. That's class today. There's no submissions. Go back and kind of look over your vocab so that you know the difference between these. But that's all you have to do. I do want to remind you that I would really, really appreciate if you watched the video that I have posted as one of your things to do today.